What's up, co-reporters, and welcome back to my channel. So last night, I recapped Kailyn Lowry's Baby Mama's No Drama podcast for my channel members. It's an exclusive thing I do every week. And in the comment section, someone said, wait a minute, Grace, you forgot the very end. I had turned off the podcast by this point because they get into down in the DMs when people write to them about all sorts of like nasty, weird things they get up to in their personal time. Trifling things, I should add. But guess what? I go back and I listen, and Kail revealed some very, very interesting news to her podcast listeners, which is basically that it hasn't actually even been confirmed that her fourth baby daddy, Elijah Scott, alleged fourth baby daddy, is the father of Rio, the baby that she had in November of last year and kept secret before pretty much immediately getting pregnant by Elijah. I almost said again, but I can't say again because it's not even confirmed that he is the father of Rio, you guys. And by the way, we all know that she had twins now, right? So let's get into the audio clip that she shared and talk about the implications here, because in case you guys have forgotten, Kail was dating a man who goes by the name of Malik when she started creeping around with Elijah. She covered this in the podcast episode. She claimed that both she and Elijah were seeing other people, but then they started having feelings for each other and decided to cut things off with their other people that they were seeing. But the timelines just aren't really adding up. And Kail is a known cheater, and she's also a habitual liar, a proven habitual liar. So I am inclined to believe that she was cheating on Malik with Elijah Scott when she got pregnant. And so let's get into the audio of what it is that she had to say on Baby Mama's No Drama about Elijah not even having official confirmation that he is the father of Rio.
Why they're not
I
friends.
didn't even, yeah. Oh, that could, yeah, like, did she actually commit paternity fraud?
Like, maybe that is where they're not friends anymore because he thinks that's his baby and it's not his. But when I got pregnant with Elijah, I said, do you want a paternity test? Because it was one of those things where it was kind of like hookup culture, and it was so fast that I was like, and so I do understand that. So to me,
so hookup culture, it was happening so fast. Kail was in a relationship with this guy, and probably raw dogging him, right? Because if she's willing to raw dog her hookup, her neighbor, then why wouldn't she be raw dogging the guy that she was actually in a relationship with for a couple of years? So just the fact that this woman who has already gotten pregnant by so many different men at this point is still running around town raw dogging quite literally everybody, it's quite alarming, because I remember there was a time on Teen Mom in the early days when Kail was up there on stage. She had cheated on that guy, the one white guy we saw her dating back in the day. What was his name? Jordan the Giant. She was cheating on him with Joe, and then STDs were being passed around. I don't know if it was chlamydia. I don't know if it was gonorrhea. I don't know what it was, but the STD was STDing, okay? And so they had to get tested and whatnot. Like it was a whole thing. So the fact that she went through that, and she's aware that there are even more serious, incurable STDs running around out there, but she's still out here raw dogging everybody, is quite fascinating to me, right? Especially as someone who at her big old age still doesn't seem to understand how babies are made. It's just interesting. It really, really is. So she tried to tell Elijah, listen, we started raw dogging, hooking up, hunching real early into our relationship. Do you want a paternity test? And I feel like, when you're offering someone a paternity test, it's because you too kind of want to see who the daddy could be, because you're not sure. It could have been Elijah, but it also could have been Malik, because the timelines overlap between the two of them. And she is so lucky she caught a 23-year-old sucker, because guess what Elijah said, according to Kail? No, it's fine. I don't want a paternity test. You fool. You fool. Are you kidding me? So now, here's the thing. My question is, why aren't hospitals just automatically paternity testing, like off the bat? There's already, and this is why she even brought it up, it's because on the podcast, they were talking about a woman who lied to a man about the paternity of the child. Like she had been running around, like Kail, raw dogging everybody. She got pregnant by someone else, but she had the current sucker she was with convinced that it was his baby, right? So this happens so often. This is not like a thing that happens every, once in a while or whatever. I feel like a good at least million people out there are the result of this sort of kind of betrayal. So why aren't hospitals just automatically doing this just for everybody? It makes it less awkward for the women and for the men in this situation. So just get that out of the way. I do think that that should be an automatic thing. So even if Elijah doesn't want to know if he is actually Rio's biological father, because guess what? At the end of the day, if Elijah wants to step up and be a father figure, or be a father for a child that is not biologically his own, then he is the child's father. It's just on a biological level, outside of whether or not Elijah wants to know. I think for the sake of the child, that should be confirmed early on and revealed to that child eventually, because, you know, that has a lot of implications from a health perspective, right? This is something that happened on Teen Mom OG. I want to say, you guys, we know Cheyenne Floyd, right? She was dating a guy while she was raw dogging Corey Wharton, who got her knocked up in all of the 7 seconds that he was pumping her. He said that. He said it lasted like a minute max. And so she had the guy that she was dating convinced that Ryder was his baby. But then what happens? Ryder starts experiencing health issues, very serious health issues with the VLCAD that she's been diagnosed with. And when a child has these kinds of serious health issues, genetic testing needs to be done to find out what happened. Where did this come from? You know, what can we do? So in all this genetic testing, they find out that that guy was not Ryder's father. You were not the dad. And so Cheyenne had to go back, tail between her legs, to Corey and say, listen, you're my baby daddy. Okay, like come do some genetic testing because we want to figure out where this VLCAD came from that our daughter has, right? So things like that can happen in the future, right? And even outside of like health complications, this, that, and the other, I think that everybody just deserves to know where they come from biologically and stuff like that. I feel like that's a very big secret to hold. So I am curious to see how this is ultimately going to end up playing out in the future. And if it turns out that Elijah is not the dad, what do you think will happen? Do you think that he already kind of has like maybe some kind of inkling or suspicion in the back of his head, but like he's one of those guys who just really wants to have a family, and Kail kind of comes, you know, with a ready built family with all of these kids and whatnot, like he doesn't mind? He very well could be, you guys. Everybody's different. You know, there are guys that go out there. I seen this on my TikTok. There was a girl who was on Tinder or something like that, all pregnant, and she meets this guy, and this guy decides to be her boyfriend, like, and accompany her. And she was young. This is not like, you know, people in like their 40s or something. And the guy's like, oh, whatever. Like, you know, it's fine. Like, I'm expecting women my age to have kids. No, this is a girl who was like 21, 22. She was pregnant on Tinder. She meets this guy and they start dating. And so he stepped up from the very beginning to be the father of this kid. And how old is he? 25, 26, something like that, you know? So Elijah very well could fall into that category of someone who just really, truly wants to have a family, whether or not, you know, he is biologically related, right? So what happens here? Even though Elijah is refusing a paternity test, a DNA test, Malik, I think, can still go ahead and file papers and say, listen, I have very, very, very strong reason to believe that I am the father of Kailyn Lowry's child, Rio. We were in a relationship around the time that she got pregnant. She started dating her neighbor, you know, within inches of dating me. So I would like to have this child DNA tested. That very well could happen. Now that the news is out there, do you think that that's something that Malik would do? I got to ask you guys, be honest. If you were a man, if I were a boy in Malik's position, and you've got Kail, right? With all of these kids by all of these assorted fathers, and you see how complicated she is to deal with. And you suspect that maybe you could be the father of her child. But there's someone else out there who's raising the child and seems to want to be the father of the child. Do you step in? And you're in like a happy new relationship and everything like that. You've got a lot of peace and tranquility going on in your life. Do you step in and say, hey, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring, the page boy hat in the ring, and get a DNA test and do the right thing and try to have some kind of like custody, you know, over this child, shared custody with Kail, deal with her and the headache that is? Or do you say, you know what? I'm going to let sleeping dogs lie. I will leave well enough alone. And I will just always allow this to be a mystery in my head, knowing that at the very least, there is someone there right now who wants to step up and be a father. What would you do? Be honest. Be honest, you guys. Be honest. What would you do? Right? What would you do? To be honest with you guys, what would I do? Don't hate me, y'all, but I wouldn't be rushing to get DNA tested, to be honest with you. I'd be like, you know what? Like, that's none of my business. That's none of my business. That's none of my business. Don't ask. Don't tell. I don't know. I don't want to know. That's what I would do probably. If I'm being really, really honest with you guys, I don't know. Because it's not guaranteed that he is the father at the end of the day, right? So why would he want to? And I feel like a lot of people are going to like push for him, maybe hit him up in his Instagram comments, be like, yeah, hey, did you hear this? Blah, blah, blah. You should go get, tested. Why should he go back to someone who did him so dirty and like, have all of that brought back up to the surface just to find out that potentially it's not even like, his baby, you know what I mean? Then you're going back, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I really don't know. I feel like this is a really tough place that he's in. I'm curious to see how he will navigate this moving forward, if he releases a statement or anything like that, because this is a very big deal, you guys. This is a huge, huge deal, that this could potentially be his baby. And that might be why Kail, I still don't know how babies work, all these babies and baby daddies later, in my 30s, rushed to go ahead and get pregnant by Elijah again. They just so happened to get pregnant by twins, but she rushed to get pregnant again, maybe just to seal the deal, because she too was anxious that potentially Rio was not his. Down the line, Elijah could ask for a paternity test, find that out, and leave her. So she said, nope, you're not leaving me without some children. I got to give everyone some babies, right? I don't know. But the whole thing actually makes me really, really sad for this baby, that that there is no confirmation on who his father actually is. Just because of this timeline being so messy, it also makes me sad that Kail is still out here raw dogging everybody within such close proximity of each other. That's kind of scary. I have the feeling that there's no testing being going on from, I don't know, the lack of education in this woman is really, really astounding, and I don't know. It makes me sad for her. And yeah, I don't know. And it makes me sad for Malik, because he's in such a complicated situation. What does he do? He's in this nice, happy relationship. Everything's going well in his life. Now, all of a sudden, his ex who cheated on him is like, you know what? My jump off might not even be the real father. What do you do? What do you do in that situation? I really, truly have no idea. And that's why I can't judge Malik on his reaction to this one way or the other, because I have no idea what I would be doing. I really, really, truly do not. I don't, honestly. And that's just really, really shocking. I wonder if this is something that's going to rear its head again later on down the line in Kail and Elijah and the baby's life, because I do think that at a certain point, I don't know, once the baby starts growing into his features a bit more, it might become apparent, because for now, babies, you can't really tell quite yet. But actually, he's about a year old at this point. So maybe, you're starting to see, but I don't know. The whole thing is just so fascinating to me. I really am quite stunned at the story. And the way that she just put it out there so casually, like, oh, by the way, it was a hookup thing. It was really quick. We barely knew each other. We were raw dogging. I was out of this other relationship. And then we got pregnant. So I wanted to see, I have another question for you guys. Do you think that Elijah's family, now in hearing this podcast episode and keeping in mind that his parents are not happy that he put himself in this situation with Kail, right? They didn't want him to be with this woman with all these kids by all these men. They didn't. In fact, his father no longer speaks to him. And his mother, although she is on speaking terms with him, it's very kind of cordial speaking terms. They're not as close as they used to be ever since Elijah got with Kail and then had all of these kids. But now it's like, how many kids does Elijah really have with Kail? Only time will tell, right? So if this is indeed Malik's kid and not Elijah's kid, that would mean that Kailyn Lowry is 31 years old with how many kids? 7 kids. But how many different men? There's Joe, there's Javi, there's Chris, there's Malik, and there's Elijah. 7 kids by 5 different men. The chills that sends down my spine is, whew, whew, whew. I'm going to leave this video here because I don't have anything else to say. It's just a little stunning. Honestly, this really is some huge news coming out, you guys. It's huge, 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 huge. And I'm a little speechless, as you can see. So I'm going to leave this here. And I'm going to let you guys share all of your thoughts and opinions. Do you think that there's a strong possibility that Rio could potentially be Malik's baby and not Elijah's, due to Kail being in a relationship with Malik, when she started, catching the feels for Elijah, hunching with Elijah? Should Malik petition for a paternity test over this child? Would you? There are so many questions here. What should Elijah's family do? Should they push for a paternity test on that baby? At least they know that the twins are for sure Elijah's. Or do they know? Are we sure? I'm joking. We know for sure. But when it comes to Rio, should they push for that? Or should they kind of let sleeping dogs lie? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Again, if you want more exclusive videos, make sure to join my channel membership by hitting that join button or going to youtube.com/gracereport/join. And I'll see you in my next video, you guys. Take care. Bye.